I want to thank everybody for showing up tonight. I know it's a beautiful night here in Minnesota, but some people are not in Minnesota. In fact, our speaker's in New Orleans, so that's a whole nother story. We'll let Nate get into that. Nate is the uh, senior technical program manager. I got to think about that when I say it. For Footprint Project, he and his brother started that up here in the cities years ago, and we worked together a couple times, even during the George Floyd incident. They were nice enough to bring over one of their trailers to power up in that area. And anyway, I'm just excited to have him with us tonight and to explain all the stuff that their organization's been getting into. So, Nate, you can take it from here. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thanks, Doug. It's a pleasure to be here with you all and talk about where our journey has come from and led to, and all the ups and downs and challenges, and how we've grown since. We are an organization called Footprint Project. If you're not aware of us, we are a nonprofit 501c3. We're actually registered in 3 states now, Minnesota, Louisiana, and we just opened an office and hired 2 full-time recovery managers in North Carolina after a Hurricane Helene response. Our mission is to build back greener and respond cleaner and help deliver cleaner energy infrastructure to communities in crisis. We started in 2018, I believe it was officially incorporated. My brother was the first one that really started working on it part-time. He was a paramedic at the time, was doing a lot of traveling, and saw the need. He was working for International Medical Corps and would go on these missions to Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria. He worked um, in Guinea, I think it was, in Africa for the Ebola crisis, and saw all the gas and diesel generators that are run for responding to disasters and health crises. And he thought, how can this be better? There's just so much gas and diesel generators running all this infrastructure. And so that's kind of where it all started. I came on board very shortly after, and now I was telling Doug and some of the Ellie and some of the other people that were joining earlier, we are up to 13 full-time staff and 2 part-time staff. Um, 2 of them are in North Carolina at a warehouse there that we operate now, and 11 are here in New Orleans, where we have a warehouse that we signed a lease on a year and a half ago. It's about a 5,000 square foot warehouse where we can pull our solar trailers in and work on them and stage equipment, and there's some front office space there. So yeah, it's been really exciting. We moved down here to respond. We're all 3 of us, me, Jamie is Will's partner and now wife. She's a program director. Will's the operations director, and I run the tech side of things. And we all moved down after we responded to Hurricane Ida with a bunch of solar equipment that we had staged in Tennessee at the time, and stayed. I met my fiance. Will and Jamie bought a house, and the rest is history. But there's a little background there. Our core programs consist of our disaster response, where we rapidly deploy and mobilize solar and battery generators of all sizes and cleaner energy infrastructure. There's different stages of a disaster response. There's the rapid, emergency, first 24 to 48 hours, 72 hours where you get in and it's just go, 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 go. Then it gets into the point, midterm response and kind of into recovery. And that's, after a few weeks, maybe a month. And then there's a long-term recovery and rebuilding. We now operate in all 3 stages. Before, we were just really only had the capacity to do rapid response and maybe some midterm response, but we were never able to stay long-term just with our limited resources. but now we are. So that's very exciting, and I'll get into some of the equipment and projects that we're working with in those different stages. Then we started a program 3 years ago, after things started kind of settling down from the rapid response phase of Hurricane Ida down here in Louisiana, called the Build Power workshop program. And what we do is we build out solar generators, and they're usually between 2 kilowatt to 5 kilowatt hour systems. You can see there in the middle, that is a workshop we did a couple of years ago down in Lajas, Puerto Rico, with a Montessori school, and we held that over 3 days. So we start with PowerPoints on, and each one is a little different, and in terms of like the training materials and the builds, and we cater to the different audiences. But we've done it with schools, we've done it with corporate retreats, we've done it at conferences. But we build these things out, and then we find a good place locally to deploy them, or stage them for the next disaster in that area. And then there's the long-term recovery. Like I mentioned, we are now installing permanent microgrids all over the country to make neighborhoods and communities more resilient and more prepped and prepared for their next disaster. Impact to date, and I changed these numbers just recently because this is from an older slide, but we have responded to now over 25 disasters all over the country, including Puerto Rico and Hawaii, and then Mexico and Ukraine. We had a program going in Ukraine. We have deployed over 500 kilowatts of mobile solar, 2 megawatt hours of mobile battery storage, and supported over 100,000 people with cleaner energy access. So, as kind of to follow up on the stages of our response, we will go in, we'll set up, we'll do assessments. First, we never go into a community that's experiencing a crisis or disaster without being invited. There are a lot of nonprofits and organizations and companies that go in and then they just kind of charge in and without really asking the community what they need or being invited. And that is helpful in a strategy in some ways, especially when it's like passing out diapers or food. We take a different angle where we wait for a request, either through a partner organization or some contacts on the ground that we have, and then we come in. We'll do assessments and decide on the equipment that we're going to set up, small, medium, large, and deliver that. We set it up, we maintain it, and then we'll do training with volunteers and the people using it so that when we leave, they can continue to use it. And then right now, we have enough equipment through our fleet that we'll just let the equipment stay there as long as it's needed. Sometimes we would kind of assess the different sites. We only had so much equipment to work with. So we would say, all right, this is needed somewhere else because you got the lights back on. But now if there is a process to do that, and we need to feel like it makes sense. But if they're going to use it and stage it for the next disaster, we'll oftentimes just leave it there. This is a photo of a workshop that we did after Hurricane Ida. This was actually the first workshop, Build Power workshop we did, and it was at a community center here in New Orleans. We basically got a bunch of donations at the time. And well, at the time, I say a bunch. Now, compared to the scale of donations we have now, it doesn't seem that much, but we got a number of inverters and solar panels. We designed a system, a kit to build out, and we did this training at this community center. This is with adults here over the course of 4 days, and it was great. We learned a lot from it. It's developed since and grown into lots of different things, like I mentioned with schools. Now we're doing it with high school students in junior high. Actually, the school in Puerto Rico was a junior high. So the equipment that we deploy ranges from the smaller portable systems. So we're talking 1 to 2 kilowatt, inverters, batteries between 1 to 5 kilowatt hours, solar up to 2 kilowatts. Kind of, we're thinking, I'm talking EcoFlow, Goal Zero, Blue Eddy. There's a lot of companies on the market now that make these all-in-one portable systems, mobile portable systems that anyone can kind of lift up and carry. So that's what we define as portable. Then we get up a bit to towable, and that these systems range from different specifications and designs. We have some trailers that we call them our solar trailers. They have, MRES has one. We have now upwards of about 35 to 40 of them that look very different. Some with fold-out wings, and the power electronics inside mounted on one side. There's some with refrigeration units, and that ranges again from 2 to 20 kilowatt inverters, so power instantaneous output. Battery storage is between 10 to 100 kilowatt hours. Our smallest trailer probably has about 15 kilowatt hours, and that's small for us. We'll usually, if we're going to build a solar trailer out or add batteries to a trailer and power electronics, we'll usually try to pack between at least 20 to 25 kilowatt hours of battery storage in there. And then ranging from 2 to kilowatts of solar. Oftentimes we'll put solar, or not oftentimes, every time we'll put solar on top of the trailer, so at least can get some sort of charge. And then if we have the ability to do wings with gas springs or folding out or sliding out, we used to have some trailers that had some slide out mechanisms, we'll do that. And then now what we're doing is, especially with a system of that size, we'll add an auxiliary or an additional charge controller for a ground mount array. And that allows us to basically bring half a pallet to a pallet of solar panels in the back of a truck, or even in the trailer itself, if it's an enclosed cargo trailer and has the room, and then lay out a ground mount array by the trailer so it can charge more quickly. And then we have palletized systems. These systems are on a pallet, and although batteries and power electronics are mounted to the pallet, allowing us to forklift them, move them around with pallet jacks, and we'll usually bring a pallet of solar panels, so 20 to 30 solar panels, and then ground mounting hardware to match with that system. And then these systems consist usually of between 10 to 50 kilowatt hours of inverter output, power output, split phase 120, 240, and battery capacity of between 10 all the way up to 100 kilowatt hours. And then we are getting also into containerized systems, which is there are a lot of companies, coming out there. A number of them have gone bankrupt, but every day I hear of new technology coming out. There was a microgrid conference here in New Orleans called RE Microgrid. It was a new part of their RE Plus conference society, and they held it here. It was small, but there were like 2 or 3 more companies that had containerized solutions, and this is larger systems, inverter 50 plus kilowatts, battery storage 100 plus kilowatt hours, and then solar 10 plus kilowatts, all the way up to, I think the largest array we've done is between 30 to 40 kilowatts of solar to pair with that. And we are trying to change our mission statement a bit to or how we describe our organization. It used to be, we deploy solar generators to communities in crisis or to those in need. Then it was, well, not necessarily. Sometimes we're actually not pairing a solar panel with the generator to charge. It's more of a battery generator. So we deploy solar and battery generators. But what we're realizing is matching them with other cleaner energy infrastructure like AWGs, atmospheric water generators, especially in areas down here that are humid, is a great fit for a solar and battery generator. So we have probably 15 to 20 now atmospheric water generators. They're about the size of a dresser that it uses a reverse osmosis filtration process. It's like a dehumidifier. It is a dehumidifier. It grabs the humidity out of the air, it filters the water, and all of a sudden you have clean water on site. Cold storage, especially for food and medication. And then a new term that we're using more and more called our battery library, where we'll pair smaller systems. And this one, I say portable, is the starting at 1 to 2 kilowatts and 2 to 5 kilowatt hours. We're actually have even smaller systems like like the brick size ones, 300 watts, 400 watt hours, that will bring like 100 of them that can then charge off of a portable or towable or palletized system, and then we'll pass them out as part of the battery library, so then people can bring them home, charge their phones, use their CPAP machine, power a string of LED lights, and then bring it back and get a new one that's fully charged, and then that one will charge off the hub or the library. So now I'm just going to talk about a few responses that we've done recently, and these are two that in the last year, or I should even say last 6 months. Hurricane Helene hit in, gosh, when was it? October, and at that time it was going to be a big hurricane, but no one knew how far the hurricane was going to spread inland, and the effects of that hurricane. So it was one of the first times where we, through partners in Florida, because we knew it was going to hit the panhandle of Florida, by Pensacola, and we had done some workshops with some organizations there already. So we had a network of contacts and people and organizations there that we were able to send equipment first, so about a week before, and mobilize it and stage it in different areas, and then without installing it yet or setting up it and using it. And then a team of us, me and my colleague Nick, then drove out the day within 24 hours of it hitting, because we don't know exactly where it's going to hit. In New Orleans, it's about a 7-hour drive. So it was great because we could bring equipment as well with us, knowing the scale of what was happening, and we had staged equipment there. Then, as we all know, Hurricane Helene moved inland up through into Appalachia and really hit North Carolina hard, and parts of Tennessee, and Alabama and Georgia. But North Carolina was where it, I mean, not to say that it was worse here, but just the scale of what happened there because of the river. And I learned a lot about topography that I never understood before. But in the Blue Ridge Mountains, there's all these rivers and creeks and waterways with the ridges and mountains on the side and hills on the side. And what happened was, with the high winds and the amount of torrential rain and downpour that they received as a result of Hurricane Helene, the mountains just acted as a funnel. So within 12 hours or 24 hours, a river or a creek would rise up to 20 feet in some areas. And then the mudslides, and all the infrastructure, the homes, the buildings, the businesses, both in the towns and cities and rural, they just got wiped out. And over 130 people died right around the Asheville area, just from mostly the mudslides. And we're still working with groups that are using our solar generators to do cleanup and try to find the bodies of the missing people that got buried. So this is just a little quote of a text that we got and it shows you the the horror and the absolute overall, it's just so sad. But we were able to respond there. We got a team. So while our team was in Florida, we got another team up to North Carolina, and then that turned into our largest response to date, where we've now been able to hire 2 full-time people to work out of an office there through the funding and support we've received. Now it's just long-term recovery and rebuilding. These are some sites and examples of operations that we supported. One was a critical services microgrid group. They're basically a bunch of nurses and doctors and medical workers that used our smaller systems. These are 3 kilowatt, those Pelican cases there. It's an all-in-one, heavy duty, rugged. It's in a ruggedized case. You can wheel those around and beat the heck out of it, and it'll still work. You throw it in the back of a pickup truck, it can get muddy and it'll still work. But that is a 3 kilowatt inverter in there, so it can handle anything a 2 to 3 kilowatt. Gas generator could. It has a 5 kilowatt hour battery, and then it can take up to 2 kilowatts of solar. So they were using these to go into nursing homes and do individual assistance for people with home health and medical needs that had lost power. This is Burnsville Ramsey. It's a county that got hit really bad outside of Asheville, and I can just play this video here. I have a few videos. I won't play the whole thing, but we got one of our volunteers that is a drone operator to come out. And so this was the road. Are you guys able to see this?
Yeah.
You are? Okay, good. I just want to make sure. So this is showing what used to be a road. And there was a town here, small town, and then very rural area. And one of the houses, I mean, all the other houses along this road were just wiped out, and everything to the left up the hill was just completely wiped out. And this house somehow survived. The couple's name was Jeff and Samantha. I got to know them very well, and they acted as basically their community support hub for this whole mountain town here. And we brought a palletized system in. We set up the max amount of solar panels that system could use, which was about 25 to 30 panels, so 10 kilowatts of solar. And it ran their well pump so they could get fresh water and deliver it out to those in need, and then act as a charging station and power just their home as they operated this hub that just came out of it. They said they just opened their doors. So there was a lot of like first aid that came in, food, everything from diapers to clothes, and they used their garage to disperse it. And our system, this palletized system, powered their house. I just found out recently that they got power back so that was almost 3 to 4 months later. So now we can get that system back and use it for the next time. But they were really cool to work with, because oftentimes, I shouldn't say oftentimes, but there's a lot of hesitancy to what we do, especially when it comes to solar and batteries and cleaner and greener infrastructure, especially not to get political, but with the current atmosphere and the political atmosphere. But this couple was all in, and they were like, "Hey, I don't care who I don't care who you vote for. If this equipment is quiet and we can turn off our generator that they were running constantly and had in some cases helicopters deliver fuel into it. They turned part of their driveway where you can't really see it as a landing pad. It was kind of crazy. And then got really into how to use it. This was a Tesla palletized system with 2 Tesla power walls on the pallet, and we gave them access to the app, of course, so they could monitor their usage and see how much solar they were getting. It was really cool to see. let's see here. Oops. I'll speed up a little bit. So this is a site we call the Marshall site. It was in Marshall County. This was a neighborhood that was hit. And again, there was a house that survived, and we set up a system there to support them, that they opened up as an aid distribution center and community hub to their neighbors. And in turn, they were able to provide assistance and aid and support to their neighbors. This is a site we call the Pensacola Camp Miller site. It was run by the National Guard, and it was a staging area for their operations. We brought a solar trailer in there. You can see we called it the Albertha trailer, and it has 2 industrial refrigerators in there and a 7.6 kilowatt inverter, Schneider XW Pro, and about 30 kilowatt hours of battery storage. So we laid out an additional ground mount array, like I was talking about before, how we pair the ground mount auxiliary arrays to with the trailer. You can see the panels on top of that trailer too. So they're all doing work there, and it supported the National Guard site. This was called the Poplar Community Center. It was an aid distribution center. You can see all the water and the Gatorade and the food there. And this powered their lights, their computers, their communication, their Starlink. Starlink was big out there. SpaceX sent a bunch of Starlinks that actually supported us too. We would drive around on pickup trucks with a Starlink attached to the back and powered by a smaller portable generator to be able to communicate, because there was no cell service anywhere. This was Barnesville. This was a group of just local community members that came together and set up. I forgot exactly what they were doing here, but we brought a trailer, set up a bunch of panels to the right there along the house, and this again powered their operation. To zoom out a little bit, what we often do, or what we try to do if we can, is to work with the local solar community and mutual aid groups. Now, different communities, depending on location, have different, local solar, what their local solar community looks like. Asheville has 2 to 3, actually probably 3 to 4 really awesome companies, solar install companies, that reached out to us and was like, how do we help? And we developed a relationship with them, and they supported our efforts. And what it does is also helps the community to build back, because we're supporting a local industry that fits our mission. So they're making connections, building relationships, which hopefully grows in long term their operations, which we see as a win-win for all. And like I was saying, just supporting local industry for local response. Sugar Hollow Solar was one of the install companies there that we worked with right at the beginning that reached out, and now we are continuing to work with on longer term install projects. This is a list of a bunch of sites that we supported and just a bit of an overview of the data here. We got over almost 100 site requests, and did 97 assessments of those sites. We ended up supporting about half of them and deployed 100 kilowatts of solar and over 250 kilowatt hours of battery storage, resulting in supporting over 2,000 people. And we valued that groundwork. Now, there's different ways to value that, but at over $500,000. I'm gonna skip through these a little bit, but because I know I always tend to talk longer than I think I do. And I just love it so much. So this is something to get into another response here that we did, and this is our latest one, the LA wildfires, in terms of our rapid response initiative and operation. And so, as you guys all probably know, LA wildfires hit early January, and it was bad. Traditionally, we viewed the winter time, or winter, November, late November, or November through May, as more of a downtime. The hurricane season isn't upon us. not as many tornadoes now. That's changed. And wildfires usually are in the spring to summer to the fall, but that is all changing. So this came up. We had most of our team still working on the North Carolina response, and then continuing just our overall operations here in New Orleans on all the projects that we're doing here. Came up. We have a lot of partners, organizations and companies that we work with in California, and they all started reaching out. Hey, are you guys going to respond? Are y'all going to respond? Are you going to respond? So I took IC, what's called Incident Commander, on this response. We always designate a lead person to take IC, depending on what else they're working on, and I had the ability to do it. So I managed this response remotely for the first 3 days. So coordinating with partners on the ground, managing the shipment of equipment and logistics, finding the right people that we know can work with the equipment and set it up. And I did that for the course of 3 days, and then over the weekend of me setting up in my fiance's office here at home, realized I got to get out there on Monday. So I booked a ticket Monday morning. I got out there. Jamie, our program director, ended up coming as well. And it turned into this really cool opportunity to support an incident command post in LA. So right at the Rose Bowl station, the largest one I've ever seen. I mean, it was like a city that popped up overnight of all different types of agencies and first responders. And these are some slides from a report, and that I'm still putting together and hope to publish as a white page, and put it as a blog article on our website. But here's just a few slides of what we did here. So what was interesting about this is it happened right in LA County, right? So it's very, very urban. Luckily for us, LA County and just the communities, there's a lot of solar and battery companies there, lots of them. So we didn't have to bring in equipment like we normally do. In the Blue Ridge Mountain, in the remote areas of the Blue Ridge Mountains in North Carolina, there's not access to these types of systems. In LA, there is. So we partnered with Tesla, and a few other companies, one being Overdrive Energy Solutions. They're a small and growing company that does solar and battery generators, like palletized, trailer size, all the way up to container size for festivals in the entertainment industry, and the music and film industry. So their mission is to take those big diesel generators offline and power concerts and events like that. We've been working with them for the past probably 5 years, and they reached out right away and were like, how can we help? So they helped do a lot of the installs that frankly we don't. I mean, I'm not an electrical engineer. They are, and they know big scale systems, 3-phase, 480, 208, and how to power large scale operations like an incident command center and trailers that are set up there that these agencies were running out of. So this is just a little bit of a story and timeline of how it all kind of happened. I got down the day that the team that we were working with, Overdrive Energy Solutions, that company I was telling you about, had done a site assessment and met with one of the two leaders that was running the Forest Service's response. So the Eaton fire, which was one of the biggest fires there, because it hit U.S. forest land, when that happens, and we learned a lot about this, of just how the agencies work together and get the behind the scenes, the U.S. Forest Service comes in and takes control of the whole operation response to that particular fire response and the damage and the, putting out the fire, everything from putting out the fires to then they take control of the police departments, both city, state, and county. So they also have what was called the greening team. I know I'm not sure if they exist anymore. The guy I was working closely with, I haven't heard from him. I think he got laid off. But the greening team was put into place in 2000, I believe it was 18. And one of their missions was to decarbonize the Forest Service's response to wildfires by 2030. So they were really interested in what we were doing. Um, and we've never been able to get our systems in to power agency um, command center. So they set up all these trailers and tents to operate a command center. There's over 4,000 responders here at the Rose Bowl Stadium that came in from all over the country and staged their operations. But we've never been able to just because of the contracts and all the bureaucracy and behind the scenes going on, it's too hard to try to bring something in and for them to actually say, all right, let's turn that diesel generator off that we've had a contract with this company for 2 years and bring in, a solar and battery generator and see if it works. A lot with new technology, there's always hesitancy. And then again, the bureaucracy and the politics and just when it comes to federal when it comes to government agencies overall. This was different. They were open to it. So we ended up meeting with their team and they helped us assess 4 different smaller command or sites at this overall post that that specifically was being where the people were Forest Service, worked for the Forest Service. And then we chose 4 of them and brought in as many systems as we could. And we're talking, I don't know if anyone's heard of the company Moxion. They developed that unit on the right. It's a trailer that has just a bunch of batteries in it, and I think that's a 600 kilowatt hour battery trailer. It can do 120, 240. It can do 3-phase. It can do everything. And that can power. This was a scale that we had just never worked with before, and luckily through our partners and people that we knew in the industry locally that have worked with it, they were able to help us do the install. So, and another cool thing, I know I'm kind of bouncing around here, but through a series of events, one of 8 Tesla Megapack, what they call the Tesla Megapack charger, where they put their large batteries on a trailer and then turn it into an EV charging station. They had one nearby, one of 8 that they've ever made. And they reached out and said, hey, do you guys want to use this? So we hopped on the opportunity and used this then as the large library. It was the largest battery library. I talked a little bit about our battery lending library, where one portable or mobile generator and charges some smaller ones that we pass out. Well, this one was a 3 megawatt hour trailer, and then we used it to charge 7 smaller trailers, smaller 600 kilowatt hour trailers, which were developed by a company called Moxion that went out of business last summer, and a number of our partners had bought these from auction, and then they offered them up to us to say, hey, we have these in storage right now. Do you want to use them? So that then charged those that then we were able to swap at these different sites. Here's I know I'm getting to the end here. I was going to try to finish by 6:45, I think it was, Doug. I have a few more slides, if that's okay. Okay. But this was the first site that we powered of these 4 sites at this incident command post. We referred to it as a demonstration site because there was no money involved. We did sign a contract, but it was just we offered the equipment to the U.S. Forest Service. They then agreed to if to um, so any liability on either of our sides uh, were no liability. So if our equipment ended up, tripping one of the breakers or breaking one of the panels, it wasn't going to be on us. And then they also didn't have any liability on their side, so it was kind of a win-win for us to try this out. But they were adamant that we call it a demonstration project, so we call them demo sites. We replaced for the first time a 200 kilowatt diesel generator, and it powered all those trailers you see in the middle photo there. I won't play the video. Well, I can just put it in quickly. So that's an array we set out. This was basically just trickle charging the units, and then I walk over here, and here's where we set. That's a big diesel generator we took offline. So all of a sudden, people could have conversations around it. It was quiet and clean, no fumes. And there's the Moxion trailer is going into a UPS too. So while we were able to do the swaps, the site could still run off a unit that had 60 kilowatt hours of battery storage and could power that. I think it was a continuous load between 12 to 25 kilowatts. So it was a pretty big one. Here's another site we call Demo Site 2. It supported 4 trailers. We took a 50 kilowatt diesel generator offline. We used a transformer at this one and 2 Moxions. We only ended up swapping one, so that was able to power it for a week. We charged one off the Tesla Megapack, and that we never had any of the sites go down, including this one, which is a more complicated one. This was Demo Site 3. We just used some units, some equipment that again act as also UPS, backup UPS is allowing us to do the swap that powered what's called the GIS trailer, the U.S. Forest Service uses, which is Geographic Information Systems. So they were very, adamant. We cannot lose power to this because all of our computers will go down and all the data that we're working with. So we also had some backup systems in place to make sure this particular trailer was not going to go down for sure. And then the fourth site here was ground support with the Forest Service, and we were able to set up a pretty decent array. I think it was a 9 kilowatt array, and it powered that trailer in the photo to the left, that white command trailer, their sleeping tent with HVAC. It actually powered 2 sleeping tents with HVAC that you can't see in that photo. And we were able to do that with one of the Moxion trailers in the back of the UPS system. So there's a little showcase of kind of the system setup. These are the diesel generators we were proud to take offline, turned off. This is the equipment that we use to deploy. A palletized system that Tesla calls their Tesla MPU, mobile power unit, which is basically 2 power walls on a pallet with a gateway and a PVI, a solar inverter. We oftentimes at 2 of the sites we used a Tesla MPU to be able to accept the solar in, which would then trickle charge the Moxion, that big trailer to the right, the 600 kilowatt hour trailer. And then when that got low enough, we would bring that to the big Tesla Megapack that was parked in the parking lot that was probably 300 or 400 yards away from all this, from the camps, and charge it, and then bring a new one there that was fully charged and swap them out. There's some more pictures of the swaps going, usually using the Tesla Megapack, and some final data points from this. We were able to work with our partner company, Overdrive Energy Solutions, and they helped us put together a report with their data, and we gathered the data from the other companies that we worked with, and we were able to avoid over 2,520 gallons of diesel, which saved approximately $13,000. CO2, we were able to avoid 19.5 metric tons. Over the course of a week, we generated over 125 kilowatt hours of solar, and that was just on 2 sites. We weren't able to set up solar on the other sites just because of the configuration of the camps. There's oftentimes not space to set up an array like that. Used over 3,058 kilowatt hours or 3 megawatt hours of battery storage, and swapped the Moxion trailers 7 times, usually at a state of charge of about 10 to 20% for all those data nerds out there. And that's the end. Thank you very much for allowing me to share our story and that use case and a little bit about our Hurricane Helene response. And I appreciate everyone listening.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, any questions from people? Just use to activate your hand or wave if you're on camera, and we'll, Barbara, you go ahead. You're muted. Barbara, we can't hear you.
Okay.
There we go.
A wonderful thing. How long does it take you to get 500 miles or something like that? Is that a typical distance?
How long does it take us to
Say
travel?
your disaster was 500 miles away, or pick a number yourself. How long does it take to actually stage to react to it?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's so many factors that go into it. And traditionally, when it was just a very small team, we just drove, our trucks with trailers. And so it would take however long to drive there. And a lot of times, we're picking up equipment along the way. So if we could respond within, a week of the disaster, that was really good. For us. It also allowed us at the time to network and do outreach, or for people to to learn about us and what we do through different VOAD calls. And but now we've built enough awareness, and enough people know about us. Fortunately, we're lucky to have that. And we're getting requests right away. So, and we have a larger team, so we're able, like I mentioned, Hurricane Helene, when it hit Florida, it was the first time we were actually able to send equipment from Arizona to Florida to stage there. And we got out on the ground probably within 12 to 24 hours then to deploy it out. So really, and then each disaster is so different. A wildfire is different than a hurricane. A tornado is it, the way it hits, the destruction it creates. Wildfires are really, hard to respond right away because they're still burning. So, and so a hurricane hits, a tornado hits, then it's done. And then the assessment comes. But we've now done 2 big wildfires, Hawaii, Maui, and then the most recent one in LA. And when I was out there, the fires were still burning. Like it was, and they were, so navigating where to place equipment and what best places to support was hard. That site that I showed you, at the Rose Bowl Stadium, which they call the Eaton Fire IC Incident Command Post, that was run by the U.S. Forest Service. That was only one operation that it turned out to be our largest one, but that was set up about 5 days after the first fire started burning. We had gotten smaller systems, smaller portables, and palletized systems out to a lot of places before that, including some fire stations and community aid centers. And we actually opened up to say, individual assistance is something we've never been able to do until recently, just because of the resources it takes to to help out one person or one family. So before it was always, we're going to support the local church that opens their doors, and or the pop-up medical clinic, and the or food distribution in the parking lot of Lowe's or whatever, with and then that allows our impact to just the ability for us and the equipment that we're doing and the amount of people we have to be more impactful than just helping one or two people or a family. Now we can, in different scenarios, and there are some, but we have enough people and volunteers now to where if a person calls in and says, I have, I'm on an oxygenator, or my husband, is in a wheelchair and we can't get out of our house, we'll prioritize that and help them, or try our best to help them. So yeah, I kind of went off track there, but in terms of time and travel, it's all a bit different, but we're responding a lot faster these days.
Okay, Chris, you're up, and then Louis will follow you.
Hi, Nate. It's been a long time, I think, since.
Hi, Chris.
I think
good to see you.
I know, it's good to see you too. I think I haven't seen you since the McGizzy workshop, where you brought the trailer in for the kids.
Yeah. Oh.
I have a question, a couple of them, but I'll just do one first. And that's I'm starting to imagine by all these stories like a network. Like I started to imagine you must have some sort of a map, like ham radio operators or something, where they can communicate with each other, a network of people like yourself, and all of your participants and your community operators. I just wonder how you all talk to each other and get the word out. And is there kind of a national network forming?
It's a hard question. There is no like one national network. There's a lot of smaller and medium ones. And then lots with, all the different ways to communicate, and the channels on, Signal and WhatsApp, and everyone has their own, and especially when it comes to mutual aid groups too, grassroots, which often are the people, first on the ground, that know where to put systems, and are helping the people that are most desperate, is these mutual aid grassroots organizations. One in particular, mutual aid disaster mutual aid disaster response recovery. But I'm blanking. But it's a variety of communication through different networks. One of the first things we do is, now that we're established enough to have already pre-built relationships, is we're on the VOED call of whatever state is hit. So the California VOED, Louisiana VOED, and usually that is a great place to start when it comes to and all the bigger organizations, and smaller too, are on there. Sometimes there's hundreds and hundreds of people, and we'll there's a chance for people to go around and say what they're doing and what they know, what they've learned, what they can help out with, what their mission is. And so when that happens, we'll say we're Footprint Project, we have generators, and then that leads to sites and places where we can put them. But there is no just one big email chain.
So let me see if I got that right. So are you saying that you're kind of like known or have yourself registered in certain states?
Yeah, exactly.
So, and then they can see what your resources are at that time and what would be available. how fast you could get there, that sort of thing. So
Yeah, and now, yeah.
when you get an email like, I need help, my CPAP machine is out, that's so personal. How does that come to you? Does that
So yeah, no, we have made some major moves in the last year or two. We our operations manager, she is an IT guru, and she's helped just with our systems when we just had not had the ability to do that before. And now we have actually, and I can put it, or maybe I can share it with Doug, and um, he can share it with anyone interested. But we have what we call a site request form. So it's an open URL, and it says, it's some basic, it's one page, and it allows anyone to go on and say, it'll say, are you an individual, or are you an organization, and what are you needing, emergency power for? We call it our emergency power request form. And now that we use that for to manage exactly what you just asked about, all these, like, I'm this person with this, and I need it here, or I know this neighbor that needs this. So now we send that form to them because we just can't manage all of it. So then they come in to a database, we're able to see it all and then go through them very quickly. And usually we'll try to call them back or email them back within, a couple hours, depending on how many, when it is, if it's a weekend, and how much staff we have available and our volunteer network. But we're able to respond really quickly and say, like, and at least ask upfront questions that are needed to do the assessment, like, we're not going to be able to power your whole house. We'll be able to power, and we have this equipment available that can power your lights, your CPAP machine, your oxygenators. But it starts with that conversation, and then asking just more questions, and then oftentimes saying, like, we're not going to be able to do that, but here's what we can do.
That's okay. That's really interesting. Answers my question and makes it so that 10 people don't show up at the same house going, like, they, what I mean? So you don't overlap redundant services.
All right, Mr. Asher, do you still have a question?
Yeah, is there time, or are we?
Sure. No, go for it.
Nate, first of all, thank you very much. It's extremely impressive what your group has done. It's enormous. There's so many questions that I have. I'm going to try to cut some down here. How many volunteers? How do you get all these people? Do they have time to go places? Your equipment, for instance, how do you replace it? Well, there's got to be a lot of money in equipment. Say there's like the solar panels. You can't you can't grab all of them after this is all done. And the final question is, I mean, you can answer any of those you want, is how are we going to handle, this is a rhetorical question, I don't expect you to know, is what's happening with climate change, for heaven's name. This is going on, it's getting worse and worse and worse. But what you're doing is absolutely marvelous. But just questions about your volunteer load, your funding, and do you take all the equipment back?
Yeah. It's those are I love those questions. I love all the questions. And anyone that wants to talk further, or if we run out of time, my email address is just natefootprintproject.org. And yeah, I'll share it with Doug. So please feel free to reach out. I always love to talk about and answer any questions. So we're now in a much different stage to answer, just like when it comes to the equipment, and specifically your solar panels, because that's a great example of equipment. We used to accept any types of solar panels, and oftentimes they were used, taken down from, because the next model came out, but they've been used, or in a disaster, they're taken down. Install companies will come and just take down the whole array and just have a stack of used panels, old, so sometimes old, the 200 to 250 watt, but we now we have gotten to a point where we can't keep up with the amount of donations of solar panels from companies all over the country. JA Solar, Onyx, Longy, Canadian Solar. They are now, we can't keep up with the logistics of the free donations. We now only accept new panels, brand new panels. They can be last year's model, that's fine, but they can't be used, because what we started running into, or just more and more as we did more and more of it, and it happened here and there at the beginning, but when you're doing a large scale response, if like it happened in Helene, a company sent us 20 pallets of used panels. We didn't do our, now we're much better at, we learned from it to say like, were they tested? And I think we did ask, are they tested? But they didn't test a lot of them. Half of them were bad. So we would go out and set up these arrays in remote and didn't have to replace them. And it was just a nightmare. So we have now the offers from so many companies that have new panels that they just are sitting in their warehouse because they're last year's model, and they can take the tax write-off. We give them an in-kind donation receipt, and we're only accepting now brand new pallets of panels. And sometimes we don't even like, okay, those specs are a little, we need, now we say like, we will accept, for certain projects, we need 350 watt to 400 watt panels. We have probably upwards of 50 pallets right now all across the country that are sitting in companies' warehouses that we've signed, that we've accepted. All the documents have been signed, that we're just trying to move. And then that comes, warehouse space, the cost of transportation. Luckily, there's a few companies that now we work with, one in particular, Allen Aid and Good 360. They're nonprofits that support logistics. So they'll then pay to move them for us, which is great, which is amazing. So, and then when it comes to other equipment, even like inverters and charge controllers, and wire, so for 2024, within the course of just the last couple of months when Hurricane Helene hit, we estimated, we're still doing our books. We're going through an audit right now. We have to go through an audit every year once a nonprofit hits a certain size and budget, and we have to pay for our own audit, which is kind of crazy. But we're estimating, so we had to submit all these documents, but we got over $750,000 of equipment donated from any company. Schneider Electric is a huge donor, both of equipment and cash sponsorship. So to answer your question of funding, this is all public information. They've been giving us about $250,000 each year for the last 3 years for just general operating expenses. And then they've donated to us almost $1 million of equipment, inverters, charge controllers. Some of them were last year's model, and even we got 500 SW2524s, if anyone knows that inverter model from like 7 years ago, that we still have pallets of, and we're trying to figure out what to do because they're really hard to work with. But yeah, and then Solarc, and then just from each time we respond, we people learn about us more, and now we just get a lot of outreach for even though I was just responding to an email today from EcoFlow. They're interested in donating portable systems and Blue Eddy, because they see some of them used in a photo. Like Blue Eddy reached out a couple of weeks ago. I was like, I saw you guys used one of our units in a photo of your response. We'd love to support your effort with 20 Blue Eddies or whatever it is. So, and then I know this is a long answer, but with that equipment now, we have so much in North Carolina. We opened up what's called the Free Store, and you can go on our website, you can see the link, and we are now one of the 2 people we hired there is running the Free Store to find people, individuals, groups that are going to use it, that falls under the umbrella of our mission. And we're just giving it away. They sign a permanent donation agreement, takes the liability off our shoulders if it, they shock themselves or something goes bad, and we're just giving it away. So that the free store model is what we see as kind of the where we have to grow in these regions. So there's a North Carolina free store. Now we're going to open one up in Louisiana here, just because our warehouse is filling up with stuff. A lot of it's older stuff, but it's all new, but the challenge is to also find people that can work with it, because we can't help everyone out that's trying to put an inverter, on their house or in their shed or on their, their truck. So we're connecting them with local installers and volunteers that we know can help them out. But it's a challenge. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff that we're
Nate, I have a question for you. You
Yeah.
were talking about solar panels, and when I started working with you and your brother, I think you had maybe 2 trailers. How many trailers do you have now? And do you have them scattered around the country, or?
Yeah. So what we had to really sort this out for this audit that we're going through. We have our own inventory or fleet that we designate as assets in our book that we own and control and manage. Then we have partner, what we call a partner asset that we don't own, but they want us to they have a solar trailer or they have a palletized system that they're like, here, you should use it. So that's through our partner network. And we have a lot of those available to us, and putting that all into a system has been we've been working on it like crazy. We just last year we're now using Salesforce for nonprofits. We get it for free to manage our inventory and our sites, and it's connected to the site request forms that comes in. It goes into a database. We can then see what equipment we have, or at least if it's updated. A lot of times it's so hard to keep it all updated. But in terms of assets, to answer your specific question, that we own, we have probably 35 to 40 solar trailers.
Okay.
12 of them, or 10 to 12 of them, are those old DC trailers, DC solar trailers that we've actually just permanently donated to. We used to have like 20 of those, and then the other ones are, trailers of all different sizes. Most of them are enclosed cargo trailers.
Okay. The other question is that, I mean, how do you guys get paid? I mean, do you have somebody funding you? That kind of ties back to at Mr. Asher's question, but I mean, I know you get a lot of volunteers, but the people that are working 40 hours a week or whatever it is, are they getting paid, or do they volunteer? Or?
If you know anyone with money to pay it, no, I'm just kidding. No, we're fortunate now. When I say we have 13 full-time staff, those are salaried. They make a nonprofit salary, but salaried with benefits. We do a stipend package for health insurance, and we're looking into getting our own health insurance package as well. But we are all, we make a modest, we don't make a ton of money, but enough to get by and have a good life. And the money comes from, most of it comes from corporations and foundations and individual donors. But like the Schneider Electric, $250,000 for general operating, that's covering 5 of our salaries.
Yeah.
Direct relief, we have a couple. Target Foundation has been giving us about $100,000 every year for the last couple of years, and there's about 3 or 4 more of those, 50 to 100,000 cash donations for general operating expense, and then grants. We get these grants that for projects, and we'll then build in staff time. So equipment, this is what the equipment costs, this is what the trainings will cost, it's a training too, and this is what we need for program implementation.
So when you go to California and you help them out there, do you get some money from California or?
Not from the state. We've been, lucky that we were not affected. Well, I shouldn't say that in terms of our like ability or our cash flow on relying on grants that have been canceled, that a lot of organizations that we have worked with, like they got their money from grants that are now gone. We had that was a very small percentage um, of our income, or revenue, and so, but like your question specifically from California. I'm a salaried employee. I worked with a bunch of volunteers that wanted to help. Some of the local companies, we were able to pay just for like transportation costs and a stipend, based off the money that we raised on that deployment. So we will put out a Give Lively page now for every disaster. So within a couple of days, we were able to raise about $25,000 for our LA response. It's specific to that response. So a Give, and you can go to the website and then you click a link and it goes to a platform, and it says Give Now to support our LA response operation.
Yeah, we need to help you get some national coverage on what you're doing, because I think many people would be, very willing to help out if they just were more aware of what you guys are doing out there. We got about 2 minutes left. So any final questions from anybody else? Barbara?
Well, I wondered, I heard about the disaster in Haiti a few years ago, and people came in from Israel with, I think, generators and fuel and operating theaters, doctors and tents, that did all sorts of things. And they came in as a unit and they had a program of what they could do, how many people they could take care of. And in other words, they had their energy with them as part of the thing. So I don't know if you've run into that, or other people inquire from you, gee, how could we, if we wanted to have our own energy, what would we do? How do we do it? Do you see that kind of a service that you might be doing? That's kind of a service of designing and telling them where to get things
Like post disaster, or doing
before the disaster,
recovery?
so that
Sure.
other folks like you are getting organized, so you can help. Maybe there are other doctors or food people or things, clothing people or whatever, responding to I see this Goodwill truck here on the picture that could see energy as part of their bill, that they would provide their own energy, really, you might say.
Nate, you guys need to be a solar energy without borders organization, like the doctors and architects and all those folks. So go ahead and answer Barb's question.
Sorry, I have a little. And forgive me, it's been a long day, so I was just a little confused about the exact question. Like coming in earlier to offer.
No, do you find yourself, or do you see a mission of yours where you would not only provide power after the disaster, but before that, counsel other organizations who also respond to disasters
Yeah,
about how to provide their own power?
got it. Yes. Sorry, but yeah, I didn't quite understand the question. Yeah, so good, and I know we're a minute over, but a good example is we work with a organization called ITDRC, Information Technologies Disaster Response Community, or all these acronyms. But they come in and they set up Wi-Fi, they do Starlinks, they give out computers, cell phones, SIM cards. They're funded by like Walmart. They're a bunch of tech people that used to work in technology and for the big computer companies, and started this nonprofit. And they didn't know solar and batteries though, and a lot of that stuff can be powered on solar batteries. So now we work with them often to update their fleet, their vans that they pull in with laptops and routers and charging stations, cell phone charging stations, to to train them on how they can power that with a solar, even just a small solar generator. So now they roll around with a bunch of their own portable solar generators and panels. We even help build them a couple solar trailers that they go around to power their operations. So that's just one example. But yes, we are doing that. A lot more organizations that want, and that they come in with a bunch of diesel generators gas generators, the small gas generators.
Yeah.
They hear of us. We then work with them when we're not like on the ground actively responding to help them prep for the next one and show them, hey, don't use that. You can use this, and here's how to do it.
That's great.
Good. Yeah.
Well, Nate, thank you so much. This has been awesome. It's just a story that to me needs to be told everywhere because it's just a great project you guys have been working on. Is there anybody else out there doing what you guys do? I mean, in the whole scheme of things, or are you pretty much on your own for now?
We're pretty unique,
Yeah, that's what I keep thinking. So, well, hey,
unfortunately.
we got to let you get some rest, and we need to get ready for our board meeting. So thank you again. Really good presentation. Really appreciate it. And Earl, good to see you too. I'm glad to know you're still out there. So you take care, and you and I can talk later. Okay?
Thank you so much. It was nice to
Yeah.
see
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
All right. Bye bye.